Once you've spent time creating some fancy text animation like this, you probably want to save the text animation so you can reuse it in other projects. And this is where animation presets come in really handy. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can save animation presets and apply animation presets that are supplied with After Effects. So first of all, let's have a look at how we save them. If you want to follow along, we're in Animation Presets AEP, which you can find in the Animating Text Layers folder. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our Workspace menu and just change it to our Effects workspace. And that's going to maximize the Effects and Presets panel. And you can see in there we have an Animation Presets folder, which has all of the free presets that are provided for you when you install After Effects. But we're going to save our own. So in order to do that, what we need to do is first of all select our layer and determine what we changed in order to make this effect. Now we could open up the whole layer and try and remember, but we don't need to do that. We can select the layer and go to Animation, Reveal Modified Properties. And that's going to show us all the things we changed in order to get that effect. Now instead of having to scroll up and down to get to that, what we can do is just hit the tilde key or accent key on the keyboard, and that allows us to see the entire selection. Now, what we're going to do is first of all just select everything. So we drag a marquee selection around the properties we want to save, and then go to Animation, Save Animation Preset. And it takes us to the Presets folder, which is inside the After Effects Application folder. And what we're going to do is create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Angie's Presets. Okay, you can name yours yourself, and we'll click on Create, and inside that I'm going to create a subfolder called Text Presets. Now it's worth doing this because it will just help you keep your presets organized. So we click on Create, and we're going to call this Text, Move, and Jitter. Okay, and we're going to save it into the Text Presets folder. Once it's saved, we can hit the tilde key again just to come out of there. And then we're going to open up a different composition, O3 Can Animation. And what we're going to do is apply our animation preset to this text here. So if you select this text and then go over to our animation presets folder, which is in the Effects and Presets panel, you can see my Angie's presets and open up my text presets and see my text, motion and jitter. Now I can just drag that onto my layer, either in the composition panel or down in the timeline, or I can double click it to apply it. And when we do, you'll see it's changed our text. Now a couple of things to be aware of. You'll notice that my time marker is at the end, and if we preview it, you'll notice that nothing is happening to my text, except for it's jittering. But it doesn't actually move in to the center of the screen and start applying the position change until the end of my animation. So very important to note that if I hit the U key on the keyboard with the layer selected, that it applies the keyframes from the position of the current time marker. So when you're working with text animators, you need to make sure you reposition your current time marker before you apply the preset. Now don't worry too much about it here because we're going to change it anyway. You'll also notice that it's actually replaced the content of my text. And that's because one of the properties we saved was source text, which contains all the information about the font and the content of the text, and in fact any of the settings that were set in the character and paragraph panel. So a couple of things we want to avoid. First of all, the time marker problem, and then the content of the text. So let's step back and see how we can fix that. So I'm going to go to Edit, Undo. You can also go to your History panel, and if you have multiple histories, you can step through the history one step at a time. But let's just go to Undo, Apply Animation Preset, because we only have one step. And what we're going to do now is we're going to save the animation preset again, because I'll show you how to avoid the problem of saving source text. Generally with animation presets, and we're just going to hit the tilde key again in O1 drink comp. Generally with animation presets for text, you don't really want to save the source text property because that's going to replace this font, the style of font, any of the character or paragraph attributes and the content of the text. So what I recommend is instead of selecting everything, select everything except source text. Now we may even decide we only want to do the fly-in, we don't want to apply the wiggle, in which case we could just select this group here and don't bother selecting Animator 1. So you can selectively save properties. So let's go to Animation, Save Animation Preset, or an alternative way would be to hit the tilde key to come out of here and just drag the selection into my Effects and Presets panel. And it will automatically take me to the last folder I used, so I can just type in text move in from top. Okay, so we're not having the move and the jitter. Click on Save, and now if we go back to our can animation and select the text, go into our Animation and Presets, Angie's Presets, Text Presets folder, we can just select the text move from top and double click it to apply it to our text. And oops, I've done the same again. I've done it where my time marker is, so I'll undo that, move my time marker to the beginning, double click the text animation preset, and now it moves in correctly. Now there's slight adjustment to be made. I may want to have the text coming from the bottom instead of the top. So I'm going to go in here into my position value and just scrub that Y position value till the text moves off the bottom of the screen. And now we have the text moving in from the bottom over time. And of course we can add motion blur, enable it for the comp and enable it for the layer, and you'll see how we've applied a text animator. Now you can also apply preset text animators that are provided to you when you install After Effects. So if we open up O2 Energy Unleashed, and we're just going to switch on one of the layers that's currently switched off, which is this one here, Energy Unleashed. Now remember, if you want to, you can make the other layers shy, just so that it's easier for us to work on that single layer. So click on their shy buttons, click on the Enable Shy switch, and that way it's easy to see which text layer we're working on. So before we apply an animation preset, let's just drag the time marker back to the beginning, so we're making sure to apply it from that moment in time. Now we could go into our animation presets folder and scroll down to our text animation presets, and within there you can see there are lots of categories, and we could just apply these. Some of them have really descriptive descriptions like blur by word, obviously blurs the text as it comes on by word, but bullet train isn't really descriptive enough for me to know what that does. So another way of applying them is to go up to the animation menu, and there's a couple of choices in here. If we select our layer first of all in the timeline, then go up here, we should have 2 or 3 choices. Apply animation preset will allow us to jump to the Finder or Explorer and select a preset to apply that way. We're not going to do that, so let's cancel that if you've done that. So we'll just cancel. The other one is to choose from a list of recent animation presets, and here you can see ones that I've applied recently. We're not going to do that either. We're going to go to Browse Presets, and that will open up Adobe Bridge, and it will open up in the Applications folder, After Effects folder, Presets folder. And we're going to open up the Text folder, and in there are lots of presets. I mean, each one has a whole load of presets in it. Now, if you want to look at these, don't double click on them, single click on them. And when you single click on them, you get a little preview, which will show you what that preset's going to do before you apply it. Now, we don't want to apply a 3D one. We want to go back to text. So use the file path to jump back to text. And we're going to go into paths. Now, these are presets that allow you to animate your text on a path. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on a couple of these to see which one we want to use. It's quite a nice one. Not that one. Okay, I think 360 loop is the one we want. So we're going to double click it, and that will apply it to our text. Now you'll notice that it actually replaces the text. And again, this is one of those presets where they've saved the shape, the source text property as well, which I don't think they should have, to be honest, because I'd rather not have that saved. But it is, so your choices are to undo it and save a new animation preset, or we can just edit the text, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to type in Energy Unleashed. Okay. And we'll also just adjust the size of the text, bring that down a little bit so that it fits in at the end there. Okay, and we'll also make it all caps again. At the moment, most of the effects are using Myriad Pro. I've deliberately uninstalled Myriad Pro here, and I'm just going to choose Arial Black instead. So you can make changes to the text once you have it animating on. Now you can also make changes to the preset as well. If I decide actually I don't want it coming in on a loop, I just want it on a circle. Unfortunately, there's no simple circular path preset, so let's make our own. Let's get rid of the path that creates the loop. In order to do that, we need to select the layer and hit M to bring up the loop path. And it's just a mask, so we can select it and hit backspace to delete it. Now we don't have a path, so what we need to do is go into our text and create a new path so that we can choose it in our path options. So with the layer selected, go up here to the Mask and Shape Tools menu and click and hold and choose the Ellipse tool. What I want you to do is just draw a circle in this space here. So we're just going to start round about here. As we drag down, we're going to hold down Shift, and that's going to constrain the shape to a circle. Now, if you need to move it while you're drawing it, you can temporarily hold the spacebar, and that allows you to reposition it and then let go of spacebar. Now, you'll notice there I let go of Shift before I let go of the mouse. It takes a bit of time to get used to these shortcuts, so if you can't get it right first time, just redo it. So hold down Shift, hold down spacebar to move it, let go of spacebar, let go of whoops, I've done it again. So it's really easy to make these mistakes. So hold down spacebar to move it, let go of spacebar, let go of the mouse, and then let go of Shift. And that should get the circle perfectly right for us. So now we have our mask, we can choose the mask in the path options. So I'll choose Mask 1, and we now have the text wrapping around the circle. Now at the moment it's going around the inside of the circle. I'm going to reverse that so it goes around the outside of the circle. And I'm going to adjust the first margin setting. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to adjust the last margin setting to adjust it. And the reason that I'm doing that instead of first margin is the paragraph options determine whether you use the last margin or the first margin to animate the text. If it's right aligned, you will animate the last margin. If it's left aligned, you'll animate the right margin. And that way I can just move the text into position. Now, at any time, if I need to adjust that, I can select my mask, hit M to bring up my mask, click on mask path to select it, and then to free transform it, I can hit Command T or Control T on Windows, and that gives me a free transform box so I can move the mask, and I can also resize it if I need to. And I'm holding down Shift and Command after I start dragging just to constrain that. Once I'm happy with it, hit Enter on the number pad, and if we want to hide our mask, we can just toggle Mask and Shape Visibility off, and now I have my text. Now, there's a little bit of animation in there. If we hit the U key on the keyboard, you can see that we have a little bit of animation there, and that's because the original loop effect had some animation in it. So what we're going to do is just move to the first keyframe and remove that animation by clicking on the offset switch. So instead, we're going to animate the last margin setting. So I'm going to select my layer and I'm going to type in margin into my search field. And that's a quick way of isolating my last margin settings without having to uncollapse the layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the beginning, click on the last margin stopwatch to tell it we want to start animating it, the time vary stopwatch. And then we're going to move to the 5-second mark, and I think we'll just put in a couple of revolutions. So I'm going to scrub that round till it goes round about 3 times, and we'll just preview that. Okay, we could adjust the timing if we need to. It's a little bit fast, so let's just pull that back 1 revolution. So we scrub that value until it's readable. Okay, so a nice way of being able to add a little bit of animation, and of course, once we've applied the animation preset and made changes to it, we can then save our own circular animation preset.